Hi, I am Dee Dee Jones.
And I'm Stan Copeland, the pastor of Lovers Lane United Methodist Church in Dallas, Texas. And we're very pleased today to have with us Bishop Will Willimon, who is going to be our guest. And he has invited us, and because it is so informal, we're going to call him Will. And that's how he's known by a lot of people, but he's been a wonderful bishop in the church as well and served in so many capacities. The dean of the Duke Chapel for years, and in different settings as pastor, and so he brings a lot of wisdom to the table.
Absolutely.
A lot of books that you've written, Will, that have continued to inform the church and individuals in our Christian walks, and we appreciate that very, very much.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you, Stan.
Well, we call
good to be with you.
Well, it's good to have you with us. We call our show Hope Connection, and one of your more recent books was Don't Look Back, and it was particularly a book written for those of us who are United Methodist and have gone through some struggles recently. And I just want to ask a general question, not just about the United Methodist Church, but about the church in general. Where do you see hope for the future of the church?
A lot in recent days because it doesn't feel like a very hopeful time, particularly in United Methodism. But not to sound overly pious, I sort of think our hope is Jesus Christ. I know Tim Keller, the pastor of New York City, as he was dying of cancer, he was being interviewed, and the interviewer asked him, Tim, what is your hope for what's next? And Tim responded something like, well, my hope is the hope the day that I got baptized, and that is that I hope that what the church has taught me about Jesus Christ, what the scriptures say about him, is true. Which is a way of saying that because of Jesus Christ, even in church struggles, difficulties with the church, disappointments with the church, even then we can have hope.
Yeah. Because
the church was Jesus' idea, for it was ours. He promises to sustain us to the end. He promises us with 2 or 3 just show up, right, he'll be there. Mm-hmm. That therein is our hope. A person asked me the other day, what is your hope for General Conference? And I said, well, the hope of many other Methodists that they won't do too much damage, that we'll recover and then forget about it by August. Our hope is in the one who's convened us, the one who called us into this ministry to start with, and therefore we're justified in having hope.
Yeah, that's really, really great. I particularly love your stories that you share out of your personal experience and, growing up and your rich experience as a pastor, and so many stories that have, touched your life. You've shared with us, so they've touched ours. And, I really, really want to thank you for your ministry of writing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And you continue to do that in a big way.
In my advanced age, yes. Yeah, I have enjoyed that. I look upon my writing as kind of an extension of my preaching.
Yeah.
And early in my time in academia, a colleague asked me just before my review, I worry that you may be overexposing yourself. And I said, no, Madonna overexposes herself. No, I'm a Methodist preacher. Nobody says to a Methodist preacher, Stan, you really think you ought to be preaching next Sunday because you preached for 24 Sundays previously, and aren't you afraid of being overexposed? No, it's what we do, and we do it on a regular basis, and so I've enjoyed that. kind of extension of my preaching ministry.
Yeah, yeah.
For sure.
I want to ask you a question, kind of shift from the church to our culture here in the U.S. We're in a political season. You're from the state of South Carolina, where you were born and reared, and just to think in terms of the divisions that we face today, it's not like we haven't faced divisions that are pretty stark in the past. But what do you think the church can offer today, or we as Christians can offer today, in light of the divisions that we seem to be facing that are so so stark?
I don't know. It's kind of hard not to read my own mood into things, but maybe this is a good time for those of us who are Christians to be reminded that our primary allegiance is to Jesus Christ and his kingdom, and that should set the tone for our other allegiances. So I'm thinking about that during the time of the but also maybe to make all the more remarkable how the fact that your church can actually gather on Sunday mornings and not start screaming at each other like they do at the school board meetings, and yelling and saying terrible things about each other. The wonder that Jesus Christ loves to put people together who have very different views on a variety of subjects. And have nothing in common, and maybe don't even like each other that much. Well, that's the way he does salvation. It's called church. And, when people, some of our disaffiliating, I don't like that word, but disaffiliating sisters and brothers, when I ask them, why do you want to leave our fellowship? And they say, I just want a church where there's no bickering and division, and just some subjects are settled and fixed and final, and there's no discussion and no debate about it, and all this disagreement. And I say, in love, hey, if St. Paul couldn't figure out how to form that congregation, I know you can't, okay? It's called the body of Christ. Yeah. And, hey, look at St. Paul's letters and maybe take heart that when he talks about all the divisions and problems in these little congregations he was serving, I think sometimes reading like 1 Corinthians, and Paul is talking about divisions, and he's telling y'all ought to love each other. Preachers don't talk like that unless love is the problem. Anyway, I'm thinking, Paul, you couldn't have had more than, 50, 100 members in that little congregation? You couldn't get them together? Maybe that is reassuring to me as I try to get together a much larger congregation than Paul ever served. So disagreement, division, and all. And Christians make the astounding claim, I'm sorry, I've gone to preaching. We make the astounding claim that Jesus Christ makes possible for me to have deep disagreements with you, for me to have deep differences in background and education, social class, everything with you, and still we will go to the Lord's table together and partake of his body and blood. That's a claim, darn it, the church ought to have to make good every week.
Amen.
Yeah. Now, Dee Dee's read one of your books lately, and she's got a question for you from her reading.
Well, I've been reading actually several of your books, but one of the things that has hit me in thinking about this interview today is if you could tell your younger self what to be ready for today in the life of the church, what 2024 would bring, what would you say?
Tell my younger self?
For today. I mean, all that you've learned through these years and where we are and where we've landed. And I know you've probably forgotten more than what some of us have already learned.
I've forgotten what it was like to be young. I forgot that. So that's a hard question. But, and by the way, bless you, because old guys like me love for younger people like you to say, hey, older adult, tell us what you think, or give me some advice. I love that. I go around blessing students who ask me for advice, saying, you have made an old guy's day. Anyway, again, not to sound too pietistic, even though I think I am a pietist, I think the good news continues to be that I don't know what 2024 holds. I do think this is a very difficult time, and with troubles, etc. But I do know God goes with us. Jesus Christ has promised not to forsake us, even though we deserve it on numerous occasions, and we've shown that over the years. But that therein is our hope. I look at a situation like we've got in horror in the Near East, in Gaza, and in the attack on Israel. And I think, wow, I can't do anything to impact that positively. The trouble is, too, I don't know anybody that maybe can impact that positively. However, I am trying to worship a redemptive God that loves to take our worst and work on it, redeem it, make it into something best, good. I mean, after the cross, I'm kind of not permitted to despair. After crucified Jesus is raised, that means that whenever Christians are asked, what's the hope for the future? Or do you think we're going to get out of this? And et cetera, you have to say, well, only if what we say about God and Jesus Christ is true.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I guess I've been thinking a lot about, the message that you speak today was the same message when you started, in the sense of the subject. God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But boy, in the how we do it has changed in a lot of ways. And I've thought a lot about, from someone with your wisdom, because we know that experience brings knowledge and knowledge brings wisdom. It's important for us to know the roads that have been paved before us. And they weren't always easy roads. Yeah. And so we know I know that the road that is in front of me may not be easy, but you guys have paved roads that were hard before this road. And I know that this is a different road, but I think it brings a hope. For me, what brings hope to this is knowing that the roads have not always been easy. This isn't the first hard road. This won't be the last hard road.
Right. So I like your emphasis on, hey, in a way, we've been here before. And when somebody says, I've never seen America more this way or that, or America is just having such a trouble now, you kind of think, wow, you probably ought to take a class in American history, and you might feel differently about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're sure looking forward to you being with us, and
looking forward to being back at Lover's Lane.
Can't wait to hear you preach. Our people are looking forward to that again as well. So,
and thanks to y'all for the leadership you're giving our church in this time. Times of crisis and difficulty in the church, in my experience, are often times of a call from God to see who's going to step up, who's going to speak up, who will we discover that their particular gifts and leadership are needed right now at this particular time. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. And we'll do this again when you're with us in a few weeks. And thanks again for coming on today. And thank all of you for tuning in to Hope Connection. We hope that these conversations are blessing you as much as they're blessing us. So we'll see you next time.